Hello, this is Sophia, and I'm doing right now my weekly contribution to Equally Awesome. And in doing so, I'm also trying to live up to Marc's No Edit Challenge. And I'm using here a 17-page ebook, which is my high-tech substitute for index cards. Does that count as cheating, by the way? Oh, and there's also no opening and closing montage, just in case that would count as editing. Index cards are a trick I learned from Selena in Flux, and I kept doing them until I started doing more sharp edits, an idea that I kind of got from Katie Blog. Bob, here was your. Now I'll start by answering Bob's question. Culture Club, Bee Gees, or John Denver? Well, I'd have to say John Denver because I'm really not familiar with the other two, and I really like the song Country Roads. Although, can you believe it? After all these years, I still have not yet memorized that song. Let's see next. Megan, you asked about a summer tradition. And the answer is I don't really have any. Every year for the last 3 years, I've wanted to go to the Jedi Gathering, but only the first of those 3 years did that plan actually work out. So unless you count wanting to go and trying to go as a tradition, I'm gonna say I don't have any. Let's see. Gameo, you asked a good one. When you announced to the people in your life, and I quote, that you are who you are and what you are, was the overall experience good or bad? Well, in my case, I came out twice, once at age 21 and once at age 32. And the first time I came out, it was just horrible. My parents didn't know the difference between a transsexual and a transvestite, and it was just, if I was even caught in any way dressing characteristic of a female or even wearing makeup, I would get into serious trouble. And it was so hostile, I ended up crawling back into the closet and trying to cure myself. And over the next decade, I tried to suppress it. I tried to rationalize it away and even to will it away. And then came religion, so I also tried two more things, trying to repent it away and trying to pray it away. And one more thing that I tried was trying to condition it away, basically trying to reprogram my brain to think like a man, and that was just horrible. Because for one thing, my fake male personality really was no good at imitating an actual male personality that I never had, could have, or would have. And while we're at it, the reconditioning's never stuck. It always faded off. And which is just as good because that's not who I really was in the first place. At age 32, I came out a second time, and at first it seemed like it was going bad again. But this time I could not back down because I knew that I would get nowhere if I did that. I knew that for me, the whole try to make it first in the world and then transition with your own resources was not going to work for me, because I knew that if I tried not transitioning again, 11 years later, best case scenario, I'd be in the same spot, still dependent on my family, and just 11 years older, 43 rather than 32. So I really decided basically at this point I was going to transition or die trying to transition. And after it became I was clear that I was not going to back down, then support actually did materialize. And my parents finally read up on transsexualism and understood finally what it was about. And same with other friends of the family. Of course, not everyone was supportive. For example, the administrators at the community college I tried to take a class in were not accommodating at all. I tried to ask permission to use a handicap bathroom, which was unisex, and they wouldn't even let me do that. He insisted that my only restroom option was to use the men's room, which obviously was not only jarring to my identity, but unsafe. It would be dangerous for me to use that. And so I tried the whole thing of trying to avoid using the restroom at all while on campus, but then I ended up going to class hungry and dehydrated, so that wasn't working too well. My local Catholic parish was supportive, but I ended up having to stop going because I could not reconcile my conscience with the fact that just by going there, I was aligning myself with Pope Benedict XVI, and therefore in a small way supporting his insidious actions, which I personally don't think there's any excuse in the world for. Mark, you asked how we got our long YouTube names. Well, the second time I entered the goth scene, people were greeting each other by their names on the Knox Goth forum, so I decided I had to pick a name very carefully, and I thought about it for 3 days and delayed signing up for that reason. Angel was a reference to a kind of mythological origin of people who have higher than average psi abilities, and red was the color of fire, represented the turbulent emotions that dominated me at the time. And I took the name Red Angel, therefore, and then later on when I started signing up to other forums, I found many times that name was taken, so I added true to that to indicate that I'm the real Red Angel, and the others are just posers. And now it's time for my question, and my question is, before you accepted who and what you are, were there any signs that you may have ignored, overlooked, or maybe explained away that in hindsight were painfully obvious? In my case, there were tons of them. For example, I kept imagining some alternate meta-reality where I obviously had made some wrong turn to get me into this miserable position of being on Earth as a boy rather than as a girl. And even though I was taught to think of boys as us and girls as them, boys were always very alien to me, and girls were not. And though I ended up being attracted to women, it was not in any ways the same manner in which heterosexual men are. Although I kept dismissing or finding explanations for the ways in which men's attraction to women was differing from mine, rather than accept what this simple fact was pointing to. And anyways, oh, by the way, Marc, if you really like videos where they just say it into the camera, don't do any editing, but somehow come out with something that's really great, one channel you should check out, Karmatic1110. If you're not sure how to spell it, then just look at the list of people I'm subscribed to, and you'll see there how it's spelled. So she's in many ways the one who inspired me to start vlogging, and if you like that style of vlogs, you should check it out. I usually don't do unedited raw vlogs simply because I'm not as good at it as she is, but if that's a style you like, check her channel out. You probably will end up subscribing.